We have to make sure that all of the documents are released, that there are no games.
We fought the president, the attorney general, the FBI director, the Speaker of the House, and the vice president to get this win.
Both the House and Senate have voted to release the files related to late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
While both sides of the aisle band together to pass that legislation, President Trump is now tasked with signing for the document's release, and then the DOJ will determine what can be showed to the public.
Queen City News Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes joining us this morning. Khalif, good morning. Let's start with 99.9% bipartisan unity on Capitol Hill. That's breaking news. Let's just start with that. All right, number two, when you look at the DOJ, are they required? Will they be forced by this act that's been passed once the president signs it to release it at their discretion?
Well, the first thing I'll say, Jason, is it must be a cold day somewhere because it's been a long time since bipartisan anything has happened in Congress. So let's start with that. 427 to 1, 99.9%. I was anticipating 100%. Not sure why the one holdout, but that's for another day. Let's look at what happened. The Trump administration, while like or love what some of the things they do, there have a lot of smart folks in the room. Look at what they did last week. Attorney General Pam Bondi confirmed last week, this is before it happened, that at Trump's direction, the DOJ is launching an investigation into Epstein ties to people in institutions that, like former President Clinton, Democratic mega donor Reid Hoffman, and economist Larry Summers, right? So then let's go to why I bring that up. Yesterday passed a bill, and it says that DOJ must turn over its full files on Epstein. And what do the full files include? Anyone that he has an association with, anyone that's a corporation, any of these mega donors, right? But then you go to the exception, except if the government is investigating any of these individuals or entities. So we've carved out a way to make sure that even if the language in here says we must turn over all of these investigations, well, we just named 3 people that were clearly already listed as being in these Epstein files that they don't even have to turn over because last week they noted that they're in investigation in the process of these individuals. So what I foreshadow is that there will be other investigations that will be popping up in the meantime before those 30 days pass, 30 days after President Trump signs this into law. That's the time frame that's required to be turned over, that if there is an investigation loophole, then it will be exercised.
So we've all seen documents, especially things that have already been released, that have been heavily redacted. You can barely read 5 words in that. What else besides what you just mentioned might be redacted? What's the criteria for that?
Well, and I like that. Back to the smart people in the room. At least Congress put into place things for transparency, that if there are redactions within 15 days of the files being turned over, you need to list and show to us, Congress, and put on the record what you're redacting and your reason for redaction. I love that transparency part of it because I've seen a number of documents in my practice that with black lines, maybe 20 lines on the page and only 2 of them you can read because the other 18 are all blacked out and you're trying to piece together what happens. I hope and anticipate that we don't get a fully redacted file, but I mean, there are reasons and rationales for it, but they have to be able to explain to Congress, which may give us a whole nother storm of events where Congress will say, well, hey, you guys released them, but you redacted things that weren't justified. It could be another fight again for another day, but right now people are getting what they want.
Khalif, we have less than a minute left here. Real quick, do you think that we'll actually get the type of information that the American people want? Because it's all about transparency.
I think so. I mean, we're to that point where you get this much bipartisan support, then my only question is why not, right? The only hesitation, my only asterisk is that it's under the direction of folks that have been fighting this to come out the entire time. The files that have been on Pam Bondi's desk, as she said, they've been there their entire direction. President Trump, all the way up until this week, had fought this. Pam Bondi works at the discretion of the president. And so while I want to have faith that Congress has acted and passed law now that requires this to occur, we have been talking about this 3 branches of government and how they're supposed to be co-equal, and the following of what Congress has said is going to be tested with this law.
All right, Khalif, thank you so much. Appreciate that. More topics with Khalif coming up in just a bit.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.